This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everyone. This is Len Sierra. I'll be moderating tonight for the high-risk recurrent advanced prostate cancer support group for ANCAN. It's Tuesday, November 15. We want to acknowledge and thank our sponsors, Pfizer, Bayer, Myovant, and Janssen. And now we're going to get underway with Steve Rue, who is a new member to the group. So, Steve, I don't know if you're familiar with how we do this. We have a questionnaire for first-time interviews. So I'm going to ask you a few questions just to make sure we get everything in chronological order. So we're going to start with Steve. Where do you live and how old are you?
I live in Elk Rapids, Michigan.
Okay.
My age is 62, 10 months, and 3 weeks. I have a birthday at the end of December.
How many days?
I'll turn 63 at the end of December next month.
Okay. And how did you hear about ANCAN? Or you know Steve? You know Rick already? It sounded like.
No. Basically, there's an US2 support group that Munson Medical was trying to, I guess, sign up for to get on board to do that for remote virtual meetings. And then when I pursued the prostate cancer support group, I was told, well, we meet in person only nowadays because we get better attendance, which that makes absolutely no sense to me. I think I see 33 people in here. So
Yeah.
I was trying to find another prostate support group. I do have a cancer support meeting they do virtually, but it's not prostate specific. So I went on the internet and started looking around and found ANCAN, and that's what I do. I research. So I found it and I said I'm gonna go ahead and sign up for that. So that's what I did.
Excellent. So you're already on our mailing list. You kind of
Yes.
enrolled yourself. Very good.
Hmm.
Well, you came to the right place. I'm sure you'll be happy with your experience here. Now, could you tell me what your when you were diagnosed and what your Gleason score and PSA level were at diagnosis?
Okay. So what happened was, I guess it was the end of last year, um, October, November, something like that. My primary care physician said, "Hey, your PSA is kind of high," and I said, "Oh, it is," and he said, "Yeah, it's like 6.8 or something." And I said, "Well, that sounds really low to me." And he said, "No, that's actually kind of high." I said, "Well, let's retest it in a couple of months and see what happens." So then the holidays came along. My wife was facing total knee replacement surgery, and I just got to the point where I said, "Hey, let's go back and look at this early in 2022." Along about April, the next PSA test came back and said, "Oh yeah, you're pushing 10." So it's not that the number may be astronomically high, but it's moving fast upwards. So I agreed to an MRI and a biopsy, and they came back and they said, well, based on the biopsy, it looks like your Gleason is 5+4, which put me in extremely high, I guess, a very high risk group. They
Yes.
also did a sample of the biopsy was run through a thing they call the Decipher score, or I guess it's some kind of genetic testing of the actual cancer uh, itself. And they came back with that and said, oh, your Decipher score is 0.96. And again, everything seems to be low numbers, sounds good to me. And I thought, well, that doesn't even sound like nothing. Well, it turns out, I don't know if you guys know it, but the Decipher score highest you can get is 1.0. So
Yeah. There
I
was
had
really no
already,
reason for them to even test you with Decipher. That test is usually used for people with Gleason 7 to see how if they might need treatment or not. But
well,
anyway,
the the idea behind the Decipher was twofold, though. It was uh, to determine where that was, but it was also because I had expressed an interest in a clinical trial, and that was a requirement of the clinical trial.
okay. And why would you right away want to start a clinical trial when we have standardized therapies, effective standardized therapies approved? Was that your
Uh,
decision or?
it was my understanding, my research I did in talking with my doctor, that when this reoccurs in 5 to 10 years or whenever it does, it's going to require anti-androgens. So when they told me they had a looper or Lupron, whatever it is, light, uh, and I understood that that was similar to what is it, bicalamide or whatever that is.
Darolutamide, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the way I looked at it was, well, if this thing does reoccur, and it sounds like because of the high risk and the shape and the form and the type of cancer it was, that the aggressive and high risk, that I'm eventually going to have to face that if it recurs. So why don't we just do that now? And the clinical trials is actually looking at that. That's the purpose of the clinical trial. It's not like a blind trial. It's like a large group of the men are going to actually get apulamide, and they're going to get the apulamide anti-androgen day one instead of waiting later down the road when they have an issue uh, uh, with the cancer recurring. The cancer genetic test that they told me, they said that it is a resistant. It's ADT resistant type of cancer, so it's not as effective as other types of prostate cancers with ADT therapy, which I'm on now. So reducing testosterone, apparently the type of cancer that I have, based on the genetic testing, shows this is the kind that's going to later mutate and start to dine on something other than testosterone. So removing testosterone is a short-term fix.
So I think what you meant to say was apalutamide. Is that the
Yes, correct.
apalutamide?
Thank you. Thank you.
And so now you're on Lupron and apalutamide. Is that right?
No, I didn't I didn't get randomized into the fourth group. So, I was kind of hoping I would hit it, but I didn't. I'm in the third group, which is the high risk patients that have the resistant type of prostate cancer, and they're giving me the bicalutamide, and then they're doing the standard HDRs and the standard EBRT radiation therapy. I considered surgery, having the prostate removed, but talking with a second opinion with another doctor, they informed me that the way that the cancer had already, it appears the cancer it's localized. It has not metastasized anywhere. I did the PET scans, so I'm comfortable with that. But based on the MRI, to them, it looks like that the cancer has already migrated outside of the prostate gland itself, but it's still localized. So they feel like it's in my lymph nodes and in the nerve bundles in that area of my body. So
Steve, what type of PET scan did you have? Do you know?
I had the PET scan with the newest radioactive dye. I actually had to postpone that 2 weeks while Munson. They just got approved for, and I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it was apparently a better type of dye that really lights it up like bright neon spots if it's in
PSMA,
there.
PSMA,
PSMA.
was it a
So,
PSMA scan?
yes, I think that sounds right. Yeah,
And
but
what
the
did you say
isotope.
you had? And what treatment did you say you had with the EBRT?
I've already had both of my HDRs, high dose
E- Okay, so
high
you had
dose
HDR.
radiation,
We got it. No, we got it. We got it. So you had
but they didn't.
HDR,
Yeah, but they didn't do.
EBRT.
But they didn't do the seeds. At first, they were talking about putting
No,
in the
you did
little seeds.
HDR. Got it. We
Yeah.
got it.
Okay.
Okay, we
And
got it. We got it.
and
Go
so I
ahead, Len.
start the EBRT next week, next Thursday.
Okay, and how long
Great.
did they tell you you were going to be on ADT?
Approximately 2 years.
Okay.
So I guess I have one quick question. Is you describe your tumor as not hormone sensitive. What kind of genetic information told you that?
It's what the doctor had told me after they did the Decipher test.
I'm thinking, what I'm thinking is that because it's a 5+4, they know it's aggressive, so
Of course.
they're just assuming that that it's going to be resistant down the road, because the Decipher test isn't that detailed
No, so,
to do that. So I think we should keep moving on.
okay.
I
Yeah.
might have
Yeah.
misheard him when I might have misunderstood that when they explained it
No,
to
it's
me.
okay. It's okay. I will say one thing, that for cancer like yours, EBRT plus HDR plus ADT has been shown to be the gold standard, to be the
Hmm.
best that's available. So it's a bit of a long haul. I did it something very similar too, but hang in, because for me it worked. Now, the only thing is that your cancer, they already seem to think it's in the lymph nodes. Mine, fortunately, was only in the prostate bed, but it was out the capsule and it worked. But I don't think you can do better, and don't ever second guess yourself. And don't worry that you didn't get onto the apalutamide. Um, there's actually, I'm not so. Is doublet available, guys, for uh, initial treatment if you have NX?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I got a feeling that we didn't ask you, and Len will ask you about where you're being treated, but I've got a feeling you can get the apalutamide or enzalutamide or abiraterone today as standard of care. So you don't need to be
Really?
on the trial, I think.
Okay.
But anyway, and why don't you finish up?
Yeah. So,
Can I ask a quick question, Lynn, to
yeah,
start?
go ahead.
Hold it
I'm
until
not,
we're done. Hold it until
okay.
we're done, Richard. Let Len finish up.
All right. So, Steve, who is your medical oncologist and at what institution?
I'm at Munson. It's Munson Hospital, Munson Healthcare System. Uh, it's called well, they have, let's see, Biederman Radiation Center. It's in the Cowell Family Cancer Center. Uh,
Yeah. It's a local. It's enough. Len, it's a local.
Okay. Okay. And what is the name of your medical oncologist? And do you know if it is a uh, oncologist who specializes in genitourinary cancers?
to answer that question, that's Peter Kohler, um,
Kohler?
Kohler, and yeah, he's supposed to be the go-to guy for anything related to. As a matter of fact, I think he's retiring at the end of this year or next year. He was treating my grandmother before she passed away from cancer over almost 2 decades ago, uh, and he was
Yeah,
responsible.
let's follow that line there. Do you have family members who have had cancer?
Yes,
What types and what relation?
I've had some remote, like great grandparents and great aunts that had cancer. My grandfather had prostate cancer. And he was diagnosed with that when he was in his 60s, but the doctor explained to him that after their test they did with him, that it was such a slow snail crawl pace growing thing that they told my grandfather, don't worry about it. You're going to die of old age before this ever gets big enough to be a problem. Um, I've had my brother David Denver, who has ALS. When I first got diagnosed with high PSAs and I had my biopsy, I was on the phone telling him that if he's not getting a PSA test, he damn for sure better get one quick. His PSA came back pushing almost 40, and he had his prostate removed 2 months ago. So I was glad I mentioned something to him
Yeah.
and
What
got
was his
got his
Gleason?
interest.
What was his Gleason score? Do you know?
I, no, I don't.
Okay.
And I think I remember talking to him though that he had told me that I don't think it was as high as mine. He had a rather larger tumor size than mine, but his had not um, yet grown outside of the prostate gland itself, and it didn't look like it had gotten metastasized or any other.
So,
His was completely localized and contained within the prostate,
ha-
and that's why he opted for the surgery and have it
ha-
removed.
have you had
so
any genetic testing?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I did follow up with the family or whatever they call it, the heritage genetic testing, where they look at the 36 different known markers, and it came back that I did not have any of those abnormalities in the genes. So we're pretty comfortable feeling that it's not a hereditary prostate
Right.
cancer event.
Has the tumor been tested genetically?
I was under the impression that whatever they did for the Decipher test was what that included. My doctor said that at the time that I signed those papers, it included genetic testing of the tumor itself.
Hmm.
yeah, but it's not the same type of genetic testing we're talking about.
Okay, so
Um,
maybe they did a Decipher and something else that I'm unaware of the name of it. That could be.
okay. Yeah, I would follow up with your doctor on that. Um, so, Richard Wassersug, you said you had a question.
I'm just trying to understand the nature and the number of arms are in the clinical trial you're
Uh,
on. It sounds to me like you're taking just Casodex monotherapy and you have another arm in the trial, which is apatulamide as another pre-ADT arm. Is that right? And is that the part of the study that you have two an old anti-androgen and a new anti-androgen as preliminary monotherapies in advance of taking ADT? Is that right?
Correct.
I just
That's correct. That's
Neat.
so
correct.
Who's
Steve, you
sponsoring the
don't have
trial?
That
Who?
I don't know. That folder is sitting on a big pile of papers across the room from me, and I'm don't have it at my fingertips. I
so
apologize.
if you could look at it later and put there's a trial number, it would be an NCT number.
Yeah, it
So
is.
and I think it would be useful for the group to know what that NCT number was because we have a better sense of the trial. The other thing have you had anybody other than your local pathologist look at your slides?
Not to my knowledge, but they were supposedly sharing it with some other people, from my understanding, that were involved with the trial.
Okay, so I
Do
mean,
you want me to email? I'm sorry. Do you want me to email this NCT number to
but
anybody in particular, or
just
You
put
can
it in
put
the
it in the
chat window.
chat box.
Okay, so for you, Steve, and I know John Kish is on the phone, but in the top right-hand corner, there is a little square like question bubble, and that's the chat box. And if you click on that, there are messages going back and forth in there,
oh, you want
and
me to go? Okay, okay. I was
and
going to
you can
get that.
just yeah, you can just put it in there later. But Herb,
Okay.
we're going to be very pressed for time today,
No,
and I
I
don't
mean,
want to run.
I understand that.
I don't want to run through down cul-de-sacs, and I don't know when if he's 5 plus 4, even if he was 4 plus 4 or 4 plus 5, he'd still be on the same protocol.
Hmm.
So so I'm not sure at this point what the value is of getting those slides
Okay,
reread. I think the big issue for us and the concern that I have, 5 plus 4 de novo metastatic. De novo metastatic means that when you were diagnosed, you already had metastasis, Steve. It's a fancy way of saying your disease was pretty advanced when you got it. And the big concern I have is that, with a local radonc like you're seeing, especially a guy who's been around for a long time, he doesn't keep up with the literature. And that's reflected in the fact that they want to put you on a trial where maybe you could get Lupron plus a second-line anti-androgen like apalutamide, abiraterone, enzalutamide, darolutamide, and they haven't offered it to you. And if they knew, if they were on top of what's going on, they would be able to offer it to you. And frankly, what we're seeing in the last 2 years, from year to 2 years from a lot of trials, is that for a man like you should be on both those drugs early in the disease process. Now, where are you going to get that type of treatment? You're probably going to have to go to either Kamenos. I don't know exactly where Elk. Where did you say where Elk Range?
It's
Elk
it's
Rapids.
I'm in,
it's
I'm in
very North Michigan.
It's
very
far north.
northwest Michigan. Yes,
Okay.
Traverse City
So
area.
okay, so you're up by the Upper Peninsula, by the UP,
Not
right?
not far, approximately an hour and a
Not
half.
quite that far. So the options for you to get better treatment or more sophisticated treatment would be either to go to Kamenos, where there's a terrific genitourinary medical oncologist that you could work with. Kamenos is in the Detroit area. To go obviously to U of M, although I think I might go to Kamenos before I'd go to U of M because I like this lady better. Or to go over to Minneapolis. I mean, I think my geography isn't great, but I think those are the options. And my concern is that that you probably should get someone on board there and see whether they think that whether adding one of these other drugs, not necessarily apalutamide, but one of these other drugs, is something you should be doing now. Because you can't fool around if they think, if the PSMA shows that it's already in the lymph nodes, then you're a good candidate to add one of those drugs right now.
Okay.
So Steve, we're going to have to move on soon. Let me ask you, do you have any questions for us? Any additional questions?
Uh, no, except I'm trying to understand this Kamenos. How do you spell that?
Karmanos. And
K A
I'm trying
K
to
R K A R.
Karmanos.
Okay.
And
Common.
the doc's name is, I'll tell you, Elizabeth Heath,
Okay.
Heath, and she is terrific. She's a real fireball, and she
Okay.
cares. She's not just a good doc. She's a caring doc. And I'm going to put her link in the chat window for you. And I don't know if she really knows us or not, but she's she's really on top of her game. They had another great lady who went over to University of Michigan, and this lady took her place, and she's really good. And you might want to think about seeing if you might be able to get a telemed appointment with her because you're both in Michigan. And you could tell her, I think she might know of ANCAN, she might not, I'm not sure, but you can tell her that the ANCAN group said, and what you want to be asking her is, given your diagnosis, does she think it's an appropriate time for you to be pushing to add a second line anti-androgen in what we now call doublet therapy, DOUBLET.
Doublet therapy. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I put it in the chat window for you. If you just, that link is live, so you can click on it and it'll pull her up it'll pull her picture and her the address and everything else you need. It'll pull it up in your window, in your browser window.
All right, shall we move on? I think Stan Friedman, didn't you say you had to leave early? Maybe he left already.
No, I
No,
haven't.
he's there.
No, I haven't. Thanks very much, Len. I have a real quick off the wall question. Um, I was wondering whether any of you guys, having been on ADT treatment for a while, developed shingles, which I now seem to have developed a few days ago, even though I did have the Shingrix vaccine, which is supposed to be highly effective in preventing it.
Anybody?
Did you have both doses of the vaccine?
Yeah, both, and only about 3-4 years ago. So its efficacy certainly hasn't waned. But I'm wondering, due to perhaps the decrease in my immune system caused by the ADT, whether that allowed the virus to suddenly erupt. You know.
I think it's
Negative
unlikely.
on,
ADT alone usually isn't very immunosuppressive. Do you know what your blood counts are? Your white
Yeah,
blood
no,
cells?
my blood counts are hovering right around normal. I mean, they drop a little at times, uh, but but nothing significant, you know. So it was more a point of information than anything else. I mean, I have to bear with this and hopefully get through it. But I just wanted to know whether anyone was had developed the same symptoms because they just came out of nowhere.
You know, we've had people over the years who have had shingles whilst they've been in treatment, but I mean, I think it's kind of totally anecdotal, and
No.
there's been no pattern. I'm just looking to see what I
So
have if I've got it.
Rick, I
Yeah.
just found a paper that says there's almost a doubling of incidence of herpes zoster in people with ADT.
Oh, there you go. Good one. Good one.
Oh, very good, Herb.
So, but it's still only doubling. I mean, and it's a pretty low, prevalence rate in general, but it is a higher rate in people who have ADT.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess I'm just the lucky one.
Well,
Well, I,
again,
I was
this could be correlation more than causation. Most people on ADT are pretty old. uh, Shingles affects older people more than younger people.
so
uh,
I would
and that happened.
I like, yeah, Ken, come on in. I was just going to call on you because I think you have experience, right?
Yep, yep. I was on ADT and did in fact get shingles, but it was due to a stressor, meaning I was just getting ready to start docetaxel. So stress can bring it on for sure. But I had been on ADT for 9 months prior to getting shingles. It was on my forehead. So it was a pretty but I caught it real quick and took steroids and it went away. That was pretty much it. But it's not only old, Lynn.
All
At the
right,
time
sorry,
I was 56.
sorry, Ken. But on the other hand, you always tell us you go mental, so you were pretty stressed out.
I was pretty stressed out. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
All
Richard
right. I don't want to.
Wasserstedt,
I don't want to. You don't have to spend a lot of time there. There are other people with more important issues than I have at the moment. But
okay,
I'll keep you apprised, and thanks for calling me
sure.
before I have to leave for my meeting.
Okay, Richard Wasserstedt, did you want to add something to this?
Well, I just put it in the chat box because I wanted to say that
Recorded.
Paul Frida, you got to mute yourself. Okay. Sorry, Richard, go ahead.
No, I asked her for the reference. Generally, I agree with you, Len, that ADT does not massively impede the immune system. Otherwise, people would be in real bad shape all the time, much worse than they usually are. But I was looking for that reference, and Herb, that's great. 2018, increased risk of herpes. I had missed that paper. Gotta get that in my book. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. And
what
let's
else?
make sure we get a reference credit to Herb Geller in that book, Professor Wasserstug. Okay. Okay, go
Possibly, I
ahead, Len.
can't.
All right, let's see.
John
Let's
Kish.
John
John
Kish.
Kish is the other new guy.
Oh, okay. John, I don't know if you were listening in, but we have a first-time interview quiz for you. So, how old are you, John? John Kish, I think that's the name.
You have to unmute.
He's on the phone, so we may have to unmute him. I'm not sure.
I don't think I can.
I think *6 will unmute.
We heard John to begin with, and okay, can we keep muted? No, we don't want to keep you muted. Keep muted, edit name. John, if you can hear, I'm sorry about this. If you can hear us, try hitting *6 and see if that unmutes you. I don't understand
Oh,
why
he's back. Yes, he's unmuted. John, you were just unmuted.
You were unmuted for a second.
Okay, so John Kish, can you let us know if you can hear us?
He can't let us know. He's on the phone, Len. Come on, guys.
Well, I mean, I want to hear
here.
his voice, Rick. I want to know if anybody's going to answer my questions.
Yeah, but he can't. He's muted. If there's a red mark in his thing.
Oh, sorry. I thought somebody said he came on.
He came on for a second and then he went off again.
Okay.
John,
So
maybe the best thing to do is hang up and call in again. If you can hear us. Okay. So Len, maybe go on to someone else quickly.
Yes. Yeah, let's do that. Alan Babcock, you're up.
All right. I don't want to take a lot of time here at all. I just was going to say that I finished up my radiation treatments today. So my wife and I went out and celebrated all day and had a great steak dinner. So that's just wanted to pass that on, but another milestone.
All right, good for you. Maybe not the best choice for dinner, but I guess you're entitled.
Hey, I hadn't had it for 7 weeks. Yeah, I was entitled.
Okay.
Lean fillet.
Very good. All right.
How are you doing? More to the point, how are you doing with your incontinence and your fecal incontinence? Tell us.
All right. So, I think people need more time than I do, but I have no control over my bladder whatsoever. But, Michio said, okay, give it 2 weeks, keep doing your Kegels, and we'll see what happens.
You have, I know we might have talked about this before, but do you have a pelvic floor physical therapist on board?
No, I don't.
You need one.
And my PCP said she would recommend one. So maybe I just need to tell her, yeah, let's give that a shot. Or maybe I need to check with somebody down at Fox Chase.
Yeah, I mean, if your PCP has somebody, a PT that specializes in pelvic floor therapy, that's great. I mean, there's a couple we work with. There's a good woman in Virginia that we know, and there are others. But I
Well,
would urge you to do that. And there are guys in this group. Um, uh, Jim Marshall, do you want to briefly talk about your experience using a pelvic floor PT?
Never had to because I never had it out.
Oh, for some reason I thought you were the one that mentioned to us that you had.
Negative.
That was me.
Norm Pollock, he's got his hand
Yeah,
up.
that was me. That I had it. I thought it worked great. I'm 95% dry when I get really tired after I've done a lot of work. Got a few drips, but I don't even wear pads anymore. How were you before your radiation? I'm on my
For the
way.
radiation, I was wearing light pads.
Okay, so I don't,
And
like I say, I don't wear pads at all. Yeah, go do it. I think you'll like it.
All right. I think I'll check down at Fox Chase first because I feel more secure with them. But yep, I'm on it.
Make sure that's all they do. That's all this girl did.
Right. Yep. That's what I want to
You
make
get
sure.
the finger up you get the finger up your butt again.
Oh, lucky me.
Alan, give a call to Marcel. He'll help you get in contact with him.
Thanks, Joe. Great. And I'll be retired soon, so I can go down there anytime I want.
All right. Thank you, Alan. Norm, as long as you're talking, let's get to you.
I think you had, but he's muted again. You had caller 05 was
Get my tablet to work. Let's see.
we have two people on the telephone here. Would you like to identify yourselves?
David Muslin is one.
Okay, David Muslin is one, and then we have two other people, and again somebody's muted. I don't know, is one of the moderators muting the callers?
Not me.
Okay, so if we're not muting them, if none of the moderators are muting the callers, they got to be muting themselves.
David's muting himself.
Okay, that's great, David. Thank you. Any
caller 05 is now unmuted.
Go ahead. Who is that? You, John Kish?
I'm here. What do you need me to do?
Okay, we just need you to answer a few questions. Go ahead, Len.
So, John,
Okay.
Welcome to the group, John.
Thanks.
Thank
you.
How old are you, and where are you living?
55. 55.
And where do you live?
Freeland, Pennsylvania. It's about 50 miles from Scranton, the Hazleton area, Freeland.
John, could you maybe move the phone away from your mouth a bit? You were getting a muffled sound.
Okay, now? No?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, good.
All right, so you're in Pennsylvania, you're 55, and when were you diagnosed, and what was your Gleason score and your PSA at the time?
It was 2013 I got it removed. My PSA went from 7 to 9, and I think my Gleason score was 9.
Okay. So you had the prostatectomy in 2013, right?
Yeah, then my PSA was about 9. Then it was like 0.001, I think, or 0.01.
Okay.
Then it went up to about 1. Then I had 39 radiation treatments in 2015.
Okay.
And in 2020, it went up to
well,
7.
What was the nadir of after the radiation therapy? What was your lowest PSA?
I think it was like probably about 0.05.
Okay, that's good. And then you
And
said what happened in 2020?
it was going up like in 18 and 19 till 1, and then January of 2020 it was 7, and then by May it was 12.75. So then I went on Lupron then. It really raised my blood sugar. 3 months later I was in the emergency room, and then I guess they said I had radiation disease. I had blood in my urine for 50 days, and then they removed the non-cancerous tumor. The area where you go to the bathroom from. And then, so I've been on Lupron since July of 2020. And then this October 10th, I started going on the intermittent hormone therapy. So last May, I was in the emergency room 3 times for dizziness. Yeah, my PSA is down to 0.05 now, and the Lupron really disrupted my life. It really raised my blood sugar and made me tired, and caused confusion and memory loss and a lot of pain. So, okay, can you hear me?
Yes. John, do you exercise regularly?
I try to, but it's been very hard. Yeah, since November of last year, I haven't felt right. I was on the monthly Lupron, and I did all right with that. But once I did the 6-month one, October 10th of last year, I ended up in the emergency room, and for whatever reason, with the 6-month injection, I feel a lot more fatigue.
Well, sorry, I didn't catch that, John. Are you moving the phone around? Try and keep
Yeah,
the steady
sorry.
distance. Yeah.
A lot of fatigue from the Lupron. It really changed my personality. I have a temper, and I cry a lot, and I forget things. And I feel a
Why
little
did you
bit
go to the
better at that
emergency? Why did you go to the
because
emergency room?
I was dizzy.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
You know what your blood pressure is?
it's good. It's like 100/70. Sometimes it's low, but no, my blood pressure is good.
Well, that's
They
kind of
thought it
low.
was, yeah. It's kind of like I had low level vertigo from the Lupron. It seems bizarre, but I could do almost nothing being on the Lupron. I mean, eat my 3 meals and that, but I haven't driven since last May. And there's a shuttle locally that takes me to my doctor's appointments. But I don't know. I call it a Frankenstein medicine, the Lupron.
So you said
But
you're on a intermittent therapy now, so you're no longer on the Lupron?
yeah, I feel a little bit better. But when I was going for physical therapy for my hands, because I know this has nothing to do with the cancer, but I had a metal plate put in my neck January of 2020, spinal fusion surgery, and then carpal and cubital tunnel surgery on both hands. So yeah, and then hematuria removed. So I had 4 surgeries in the last 2 years, but I have like permanent nerve damage in my right hand from the disc in my neck. So I
Yeah.
went for PT and OT, but they said it's not going to come back. Just that the disc in my neck are that bad. So
John,
yeah,
do you happen to know what your hemoglobin is or your hematocrit? It's a blood test.
No, I did have anemia in the past, but this time was good, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I wasn't quite clear. I think you said you did start intermittent therapy, so you're on a drug holiday right now from Lupron, right?
Yeah, I do feel better, but I don't really have not too much energy, you know.
So you're
Yeah.
feeling better, and do you know if your testosterone levels are coming up?
Well, they tested me like October 4th. It was still really low, but they feel like they're coming back a little bit, but I don't think enough because it's only since October 10th. So whatever a month, like I don't know what today's date is. So yeah, I've been off in about a month and 4 days, you know. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Yeah, you just
I'm
started.
I'm feeling better, but I applied with the National Institute of Health for a clinical trial, but since the Lupron's working, they said I really wouldn't be eligible for a clinical trial. That would only be if the Lupron didn't work. I don't know if you know what I mean.
I can't hear him.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Lupron. Like, there's like 30 side effects with it, and I feel like I had all 30 of them, you know?
Sure, sure. Listen, so you need to take advantage of the drug holiday that you're on now and start exercising. Build up your strength, your bone strength, your blood counts, your muscles. I know you're still feeling a little tired, but as you feel stronger as you go along in the drug holiday, try and get as much exercise as you can. And I'm going to open it up to everybody else, unless you have a specific question for us, John.
Oh, no, that's it.
Okay, guys, anybody have comments? I think,
John, this is Alan, and we've been talking.
Yeah.
I know you're feeling really bad. Are you talking to anybody about your feelings, like what's going on with you emotionally?
Yeah, I am going for counseling, but the only thing I don't like is the counselors. None of them that I've went to know anything about Lupron, and then non-cancer or non-uro doctors that aren't cancer doctors don't know about Lupron, you know. So yeah, I feel like I'm totally not the same person. Like it changed me 100% the Lupron.
So,
Like
You know,
so
you can work on those feelings without talking about the Lupron too, though. Just, what you need to keep yourself pumped up and what you need to keep things you need to do, you can do, possibly to keep your spirits up, which will help you exercise, which is always good.
so
Almost.
yeah, the fact that I haven't been driving really makes me isolated. My one friend helps me
Okay.
out. Like in when when I was driving, I could do more, but I live in such a small town. Now that I'm not driving, I'm really isolated.
Well, I think it was good to come here tonight. That's a little bit cutting down your isolation. So kudos to you for that.
Yeah, John, are you aware of another group we have called Speaking Freely, where you can the guys talk about their emotional parts of aspects of being of having prostate cancer?
No, I don't know about that. And then,
Oh, Alan, maybe you can navigate him toward that group.
and then where
Yeah.
I live, no prostate cancer group, and my doctor and medical assistant said they wanted to find somebody to like conduct one locally, where I live. So we're trying to get one started.
Yeah, I'll get them hooked up with the men speaking freely. I can do that. And I did find how they find it. I apologize for the access code, but I did see where it was on the website, so I can help them with that.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so I'm all right, but I don't, with the surgery and getting it prostate removed and radiation, that was all right, but
So, John, I'd like to go before we finish. I'd like to go to Dr. Wassersup because he is
yeah,
really the expert on working with men on hormone therapy. He's written a book about it, and we've got a gent here who's in an isolated location, doesn't drive. What words of pearls of wisdom can you offer, Richard?
Okay, so John, you can't see him in the screen here, but first of all, I'm very impressed both with Alan's a line of support and his offering to put you in contact, and the way Len asks his questions because they're right on the mark. And what Len said was one, exercise. What Alan said is exercise and get support. And I really am sorry that you were not directed to good resources to prepare for ADT. Lupron does have a huge amount of side effects. Most of them can be dealt with if you do it preemptively. That is, it's a drug which prehabilitation is so much better, but you're late in the game. The best single thing you can do right now is to exercise, but you mentioned your isolation. You also mentioned, though, that you have a friend. Does your friend exercise? Will the friend start to go for 20-minute or half-hour walks with you? I mean, he gives you the rides, but would also just help get you moving, because that's the best thing you can do, singly on your own, to manage those side effects. That is to get past the fatigue, to maintain muscle strength, to help with your esprit de corps. And is that a possibility? And Julian is showing muscle action on my screen here. I think most everybody, would you agree? I mean, as much as we can do it, that if we keep moving, that can help us enormously. And I'll stop there and
yeah.
say, is that possible? Can you do it? Can you manage to do it?
I could try to, but I just say going back 6 months, there was times when I was so tired from the Lupron that when I'm laying on the couch facing the wall, I didn't have the energy to move the 2 feet to turn the TV off. That's how tired I was from the Lupron. I know that sounds extreme, but yeah, like to even like eat a meal, I would get tired. It was like, I know that sounds bizarre, but like just to shave or take a shower, I'm tired after that. And even to take the garbage outside like 50 feet, I was exhausted.
So it doesn't sound bizarre. It sounds sad, but unfortunately a bit too common. It does happen. But if you can just even get 10 minutes of movement, you're on a holiday now. You're coming off the Lupron. So now you
Right.
should be able to get some exercise. And I mean, maybe everybody here has some tricks for getting going, but start with anything. Start with a 10-minute walk around the block, or if there's no blocks there, half kilometer up the. Well, I'm up in Canada, so 8 kilometers, a quarter of a mile up the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah. One other side issue is I have a sore on my foot, and I'm gonna have foot surgery on my 5th digit of my right toe. So my foot doctor doesn't want me to walk too much. So yeah, I don't know. I'm having surgery next Tuesday to remove the bones from my 5th digit of my foot, so it won't rub as much. So
Right. So that's a serious issue. and you've got to confer with the doctor about what exercises you can do. In that
Right.
situation, I mean, I don't imagine there's a swimming pool there would be up for swimming where you are, but I mean, swimming is a way you can get exercise that works your heart, helps you burn off
Right.
calories without having to load your feet. But there are machines at these gyms that you can use for your upper body. If you can't do that, you can do things with stretchy bands and anything to get going. I mean, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try to get going. I wanted to get off last April. I really didn't want to take the Lupron. I wanted to get off of it, but I guess the magic number is 2 years. I guess they want you on it for 2. Like, I guess I've heard for 2 or 3 years Lupron usually works. I know there's a guy that I've talked to that's on it 9 years, but I think after 2 or 3 years, sometimes the cancer adapts to the Lupron. I don't know.
I do. I do.
I don't know.
It's very variable. Okay, so I have been on hormonal therapies, a couple of different protocols for over 20 years. So there's no one right number. But I can tell you when this session's over, I'm heading right downstairs to the gym in my building. So because I consider exercise so important, and most everybody on the screen.
I guess I'll have to exercise more, but the Lupron really made me mean. Like, I never argued with people, and then I say the opposite of what I mean, and it kind of made like coordination too. Like, I would drop a lot of things.
All right, the fatigue, the mental haze, a lot of that can be beat with exercise. I'm not here to promote a book, but there is a book called Androgen Deprivation Therapy, which discusses everything that's been talked about here, why they use it, when they use it, and it's available online.
Here's one question.
Yeah.
It's been the gold standard since '85, but have they invented anything with less side effects than
they're faded out on me, but if you're asking me about
Have they invented anything else? The answer is yes. Yes, John, that there are other drugs that you can go on that will have less effect. But one of the big issues is I think you're still being treated. Are you being treated by your urologist or an oncologist?
Oncologist.
Okay, so the oncologist may not know about these drugs because he probably doesn't specialize. And so there's a drug called darolutamide that I don't know if you're eligible for. But what I recommend is keep coming back to this group because we can help you and we can guide you. I realize you can't go to Fox Chase because you don't have a car and it's really difficult. But we can start guiding you. Come on into the group and we can talk. But right now, you're not on therapy. So stay on the intermittent. And then when you get ready for therapy, the best thing you can do is to get some sort of exercise, an exercise bike, just a little bit, even 15 minutes. But we really have to move on because we've got a short meeting today, and we've still got 8 guys to talk to. But you don't have to apologize. You're very welcome, and we'd love to have you back.
Okay. Yeah, is there one called Orgovyx or something? Some new one? Something.
But that is don't worry about that right now. You're on intermittent, right? You're not taking anything.
Yeah. Okay. I won't worry about it.
So don't worry about it until you're ready to come back. We'll talk to you about all the drugs and the Orgovyx and the other drugs when you're ready to go back on. But you've got to get yourself stronger right now, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, John, thank you. And feel free to join us in the future. Did I ever get back to you, Norm Pollock? Did you already talk to us or do you need time?
No, I just update. I saw Dr. E on Thursday. Drove down to Houston. She's great. She's gonna wants to put me on Orgovyx and darolutamide. That's coming Friday. She wants me to do the 39 radiation treatments. I'm gonna do those local. She ordered another MRI, wants to see what's there, and did the genetic testing. So waiting on for all that to come back. So that's
Okay,
where I'm at. So that
very good.
headed tonight early in the morning to get my wife her DBS, her wires implanted tomorrow morning.
Okay. We go straight into the caregivers group. Tonight, you're very welcome to stay on if you're
Yeah,
up for it.
I'm gonna go
Okay.
baby her and go hold her
Okay.
instead.
Understood.
Go
Any
be her
questions?
caregiver.
Do you have any questions for us before we move on?
Just one quick one for Lynn. I was surprised reading the paperwork on the Orgovyx and the darolutamide. They call it chemotherapy. I mean, I guess I understand it's for cancer treatment, but boy, they don't touch it. Don't let anybody touch it. Just double flush the toilet. Is it that bad a drug for other people?
What, for Orgovyx and darolutamide?
Yeah.
No. There's no radiation precautions with those drugs.
No,
None
not
whatsoever.
radiation. Oh man, it's the paperwork they gave me came from the manufacturers. Don't double flush the toilet if there's wipe it down.
Wait a minute, that's
What?
for Pluvicto.
No.
Tell you
Really?
what, Norm, why don't
Yeah.
you, I don't know, put that in the chat box. Read it from you. Where did you say this was? In the
It's
package
the
insert?
it's the paperwork that Dr. E gave me on darolutamide and Orgovyx, and both of them say your sweat contaminate. Don't handle the pill. Once you handle the pills to wash your hands, don't let anybody else handle them for you. Just on and on. I was surprised, and they're calling it a chemotherapy drug.
Nope, it's not considered chemotherapy. Richard Wassersug, you want to weigh in on this? There shouldn't be any concern about.
That is all new to me. I mean, between
Yeah.
Herb and Yulan and myself, I'm wondering whether they gave you the wrong piece of information.
No, I read it. I mean, yeah. Give me somebody's email address and I'll scan it and send it to you.
Yeah, you can
No,
send it to Lynn
I'm
at
searching.
AmChem.
I'm reading the patient insert right now.
Okay. I was kind of shocked how scary they made the drug sound.
Yeah. I'm going to be restarting abiraterone later this week, and they talk about not having anyone who is pregnant, of women of age, children touching the pill.
Right. That too. But yeah, they said if you're using the same toilet, you should double flush it and just yeah.
Yeah,
I
they did
think
that.
this might be CYA stuff.
That's what I was wondering. Well, I mean, I understand it's an anti-androgen's bad for women. They've got their testosterone, and you don't want to knock it back because they don't have a lot.
Right.
But I'll scan it and send it to somebody. It was pretty weird.
Send it to len@ancan.org.
Okay.
All right. Richard Wassersug, you said you wanted some time.
Just a very quick question here. So this was mentioned, I mentioned it, and this is the European version, I don't know if you can see it on the screen there, of the ADT book. And it is now finally being revised in North America. We hope to have a new edition out in the spring, but I'm in the thick of revising it. And I'm just curious on the screen here, most everybody here has been on ADT and probably had hot flashes. So I'm trying to get caught up for North America as to what, because I'm in Canada. What have you guys been advised? Just want to get a sense of feel for it, to what you can and can't use to manage medically the hot flashes. I'll rate. Who here has used acupuncture? Okay. Who here has used transdermal estradiol? Who here has used black cohosh? Okay. Who has used Prozac or an antidepressant to manage side effects? Anybody?
You got one, I think. Yeah.
One. So most of you suffered through them or didn't do anything
Hold
about it?
on, you missed something. You missed something. Who here has used an Ember watch?
Oh yeah. Okay. And who has used Mergase, progesterone? You know, the new watches are a neat idea and expensive though. But who has used something like Depo-Provera or Megase? Anybody? So how many of you just endured them?
I'm in the process of trying Zyrtec because it seems to be recommended for women for hot flashes, and I'm getting so-so results. It's definitely seems to be helping, but it's too early to tell.
Okay, that's pretty good, guys. Thank you for the sampling. Rick, I need to
Richard.
talk to you. Yeah. Go ahead.
This is Jim Marshall. Do not laugh on frozen grapes.
I'm not laughing.
It works.
Can you refer? Can you?
It didn't
Well,
work.
can you refer me to a clinical trial? Did you try it on one side of your body, but did you apply it transdermally? Did you eat them?
I just ate them.
Did you try them transdermally? Like
Trans,
Len is
no,
smiling. Somebody here is smiling. Rick is sort of smiling or hiding it.
I did not stick it in the armpit. I enjoyed them.
Okay, good enough. I mean, that's also true. I mean,
Yeah, I think, Richard, a lot of our guys tried that Ember Wave watch, and I think nearly all of them said it was fantastic.
yeah, I'm hearing that as well.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. How about Carl Foreman?
Okay. So November 1st, I had my 12th chemo combo. And at the time, they thought they might not be able to give it to me because my platelet counts were below their minimum red line of 100. It was at 91. Ultimately, they decided, okay, it was close enough. They gave me the treatment, and my latest CBC results are my hemoglobin is 8.8, my hematocrit is 25.6, my red blood cell count is 2.52, and my platelet count is 81. So I had a discussion with the oncology nurse today, and she was hopeful that the 81 platelet count has risen from 55, the lowest that was just last week. So I will have updated red blood cell counts and full blood workup on this Saturday, because my next scheduled treatment for chemo is for Monday, next Monday. So they may decide to change the dosage. There are a number of factors. I also today had updated scans, CT, chest, abdomen, and pelvis, as well as a whole body bone scan. So all of this information will be put together, and then we'll see where we move from there.
So that was a traditional bone scan, like technetium 99, or is it something different?
They didn't say technetium 99. I guess it must be traditional. Yeah.
Traditional bones. I'm surprised that.
So it's a consistent way of comparing the prior scans that I've had.
Okay. 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 Any questions for Carl, guys? What about Procrit, Carl? Were you the one who was
Yes. Yeah, no, they did give me Procrit on November 1st. And I had the new Laster as well, which I keep having each time to help with the white blood cell count. White blood cells are just on the border of being in the range of 3.8. It's at the lowest of the allowable range. And the Procrit, I think, takes what, 3 to 6 weeks possibly to kick in?
I'm not sure. We don't have Peter here. Peter Kafka, he would know. But with regard to the platelets, there is a type of transfusion they could give you. They're called pooled platelets. Did you talk about that?
Yes, and they said that they usually don't give these infusions unless the platelet count is under 40.
Okay.
Yeah, so here's the issue with platelets. they consider platelets to be very similar to an organ transplant or a tissue transplant. And so they don't like to give platelet transfusions because they can result in rejection. What's the name of that condition? When you reject a transplanted organ.
Well, what
Autoimmune.
happens with blood products like platelets is you develop antibodies to whatever the product is. Just like if you had a blood transfusion that was the wrong blood type, your body would build antibodies and attack the red blood cells. So similar with the platelets, your body could develop antibodies to other proteins in the bag of platelets, which is pooled platelets like from 20 different people. But yeah, it's a concern. But well, like Carl said, it's usually only used if you're bleeding or they're afraid you're going to start bleeding, and then they'll give it to you. But sounds like he's
Yeah.
high enough above that level that they don't need
Yeah,
to do
well,
that.
81 is a little better and it's recovering, and I've seen them given, but it's usually quite a bit lower.
Yeah.
Around the 40 mark that Carl just mentioned, I would agree. That's where we've seen it. I don't say agree or not, but that's 40, 45. We've seen people get them at that level.
I've also developed black and blue marks in different parts of my body, and so that's no surprise because the low blood counts.
Yeah.
So
Carl,
how long? The bigger issue for you, Carl, is how long do you think you're going to persevere with this? I mean, what about starting Pluvicto? I mean, why are we holding off on the radionuclide treatment and persisting with the chemotherapy?
Right. Well, based upon the last scans, which showed no progression of the disease, they had decided we're going to continue with the current course of treatment. So, of course, now with the new scans, that could be a whole different thing. And yes, Pluvicto is definitely on the list.
I mean, the thing with the Pluvicto, and we've said this, and you've heard it on the group a number of times. It doesn't work if you push it too far out. There's a point when you can get the Pluvicto and it just doesn't work. And if I was in your shoes, and I mean, this is anecdotal, but we've seen it too often, deferring that Pluvicto, if it's going to work, and we don't know, sooner rather than later. You can always come back to the chemo. I don't know. Ken Anderson may have some feedback. It didn't work real well for him, but if anybody has a sense of when you get Pluvicto,
no,
I think
not necessarily when to add Pluvicto, but for criminy's sakes, you can take a break from cabazitaxel. I mean, it's holding your PSA. As you know, I think I pushed docetaxel too long. I think I should have taken a break and then started again. Take 2 months off and let your PSA rise as long as it's working. Take a little break and then go back and hit it again. But it's quite possible that you could throw Pluvicto in there in between. But there's nothing to say that you have to stay on cabazitaxel for, until it doesn't work anymore. So I would ask, hey, what about taking a 2 or 3 month break? And okay, my PSA may rise, but we can also start it up again. So
Yeah, we have had those initial discussions as well. So there's a lot in the mix, a lot of decisions or choices or whatever. So. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Jim Barnes. You wanted time tonight, Jim?
Yep, I was unmuting and turning my camera on so you guys could see me. So that was a really timely comment, Ken. course, I just started eating dinner when I started. Hey, yeah, I just went for my 7th chemo treatment on Friday, this past Friday. I just couldn't do it. I sat down in a chair, they started administering it to me, and I was just like, I've had so many side effects, and the anxiety and the emotional aspects of it were too much for me to handle. So we didn't do the we didn't do the docetaxel on Friday. So so we're gonna, my next appointment's 3 weeks from now, and we're gonna talk about cabazitaxel. And actually, Rick, you kicked me in the butt last week when you told me that lots of other hospitals had Pluvicto, and my hospital was telling me they weren't getting it, and I complained about that, and I said I want to escalate that. I want to talk to somebody about that, and they said okay, and they tried to get the administrator for the floor, the wing, to see me that day. Couldn't do it, but I got a call on Monday. I got a call yesterday, and I have an appointment with a Pluvicto coordinator at the hospital in 2 weeks for
Great.
potentially starting Pluvicto in January. So
When you go to see the Pluvicto coordinator, Mr. Barnes, please make sure you're wearing your ANCAN t-shirt that says "Be your own best advocate." Okay?
right, absolutely. I also had discussions about with actually I only saw the physician assistant because my doc was out of town attending some sort of event. But we were talking about adding in, potentially doing cabazitaxel in the future, and then adding in the second line anti-androgen abiraterone along with that, which I'm not de novo metastatic, so it's not a standard of care for my situation. But I was asking what's the prospects of that possibly helping, and they said I can do it if I want. And so, but I didn't have a prescription because my wife threw away the remainder of the abiraterone prescription. I don't think she realized how expensive it was. But my doctor's office, they said, why don't you go through Mark Cuban's Cost Plus to get the abiraterone? So I did that today, and 150 bucks I'm getting a month's worth of abiraterone. I don't know if I'll need it or not, but I'm just saying that's versus thousands in hospital funding money. That was it. Just wanted to pass along those tidbits.
Wow. So
Yeah.
why would your doctor not prescribe the abiraterone? Is it going to be more expensive if you get it through your doc? Is that the issue?
Well, I was diagnosed 2.5 years ago, and I was de novo metastatic. I had cancer in my bones and
Right.
in my prostate. But there was no standard of care for the chemo, the first line ADT and the second line ADT. And my understanding is there still is no standard of care for that. Somebody in my situation, so to get the insurance company to pay for it they thought would have been difficult because there isn't enough
No,
data.
but it is standard of care now, the doublet therapy. Or the triplet therapy. It is standard of care. I mean, even if you come off of it, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but shouldn't Jim be able to get the standard of care right now, ADT plus a second line anti-androgen?
I would think so.
Yeah, I would
think so
agree.
too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on it.
Yes.
Well, I got it anyway. It's coming my way. Got it through the Mark Cuban site. So that was good. However, I get it as long as I get it. But I thought it was an insurance issue.
No, you got something else to be your own best advocate for at your at you. Are you still in Pennsylvania or have you gone to Florida yet?
I'm in Pennsylvania and it's snowing here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Don't go outside. Okay.
Right. That'll cure the hot flashes for sure.
That's true.
Question
Okay.
for Jim Barnes. Anyway, how are you getting on with the prednisone then?
I have a prescription for prednisone.
Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Good question, Captain Marshall.
All right, Jim. Okay, if we move on, we got a lot of guys left. We're
Thank
running
you,
short on time. Let's go to Joel Blanchett.
Yes, real quick. Dr. E canceled my appointment for yesterday and she postponed it to next Monday. Today I took a big blood vials that she ordered for me at Quest, so I should have the results. As you know, my last PSA was at 1.5, down from 8. I did receive some documentation from her when I saw her a couple of weeks back, but there was nothing about this radiation business about. So I don't know, maybe he got the wrong paperwork from the staff or something. I'm not sure what's going on there. But anyway, I did see my heart doctor in the same organization, but I went to which is called Virginia Heart, but I went to see a oncologist, and figuring that since I was on these powerful drugs now, I needed to protect my heart and bones and other things. Again, he impressed me, but then we started calling when we started talking prostate cancer. He said, "Well, you're on 2 chemo drugs now," and so he says, "I'll have to research as if that's those 2 chemo drugs can affect your heart." So I figured he hadn't read anything about oncology since he left college because he's probably 20 years out. And so again, he thought the Orgovyx and darolutamide were chemo drugs. And so he didn't impress me on that front. So I'm going to be switching doctors in the future as far as cardio oncologists. So that's it. I'll let you know next Monday night what Dr. E says because I'm meeting with her.
That's kind of interesting because Norm Pollock was saying the same thing, that Orgovyx and darolutamide are chemo drugs. I don't. That's
Well, the thing is that I can see why, because they're systemic drugs. But hormone therapy and chemotherapy are distinctly different.
Yeah.
But they are systemic drugs to treat cancer, and this has always been an issue. As to what I always called it, slow drip chemo, that hormone therapy, because it had most of the same effects, except it just took a hell of a lot longer to get there. I mean, we didn't finish up as in the state that poor Jim Barnes is in, and others, quite as quickly. But we did finish up in that state after we'd been on it for 2 or 3 years, or some of us did, not everybody. So I can see why they would consider it a chemo drug, but it's really a systemic drug. And of course, the Lupron is a Schedule B drug. The other drugs are Schedule D drugs. So Lupron as a Schedule B drug could certainly be interpreted as a chemo drug.
Rick, can I just a second of discussion? The chemo agents are toxins. They kill cells. The hormonal therapies may suppress the growth of the cells, but when I'm trying to talk about and educate people about hormone, the tough thing is to understand that it isn't chemo because the cells don't all get killed, and
right.
Therefore they can mutate. And I think that's the other side of what you're saying. I mean, you're saying, well, they're both very powerful and they can control the cancer if you're lucky, and then you get them the right time. But at the same time, with the chemo agents, when you're in the hospital, you got to be super careful because they are toxic as hell. Okay, I mean, and that's why I'm so
Oh,
surprised
for
to hear that
sure.
someone thinks that darolutamide or Orgovyx is toxic, which is what they're implying. It surprises me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's a good point. I mean, I'm not saying that those hormone therapy drugs are chemo drugs. I'm saying they're systemic drugs, and they are akin to chemotherapy in that they deliver a systemic response.
Right. Yep.
That's
Well,
what
I
I
mean,
kind of.
by that token, you could call any systemic therapy chemo, right? Like Pluvicto or Zofigo
They're all
or
chemicals.
olaparib. Yeah, I mean, the thing about chemo, the traditional understanding of chemotherapy is that it's a cytotoxic drug that kills rapidly dividing cells, whether they are malignant or normal. Uh, that's the hallmark of what we think of as
Right.
chemotherapy. But anyway, we don't want to spend too much time on this. Let's see. How about Dr. Bob G?
Okay. Good segue into my question. So I'm 3 weeks after my final 6th round of docetaxel. I was just wondering, people who have had chemo, how long does it take for your GI tract to get back to normal? I don't have the runs. I don't have constipation, though I did with the chemo, but things just still aren't right. Not to be gross, but doesn't smell right. Just anybody have any idea how long it takes, or if anyone has used probiotics?
Carl, Ken, anybody else on chemo? Jim Barnes?
It took me a while, Bob.
I had about 3 to 4 weeks, and then everything got back to normal.
Okay, so maybe I'm just being impatient.
I
did
have
probiotics when I was getting my chemo and for some time after. And it seemed to help.
Okay, yeah, maybe yogurt and stuff like that. I need something more. Okay, all right, thank you.
I've also gone to a plant-based diet mostly, and that's done remarkable things just for my digestive system. I'm actually eating turkey chili tonight though, but anyway.
Yeah, I'm 90% plant-based at this point, so that and fish. Okay, all right, thanks.
Herb, how long did it take you? Herb, how long did it take you? After,
It took
because you
me
only did
a while,
4. You had
quite a while. I did, even though I only did 3. It ended like December, the end of December, but it wasn't really till February until sort of things get back to normal.
And were you taking a probiotic or
No,
yogurt or
no.
nothing?
Well, I ate yogurt, but I didn't. It wasn't like I was doing it for the bacteria.
Okay.
Bob, try glutamine, L-glutamine. I've had a lot of people that I know that with IBS, and I got a friend who's got really bad where he's got a lot of guts taken out, and he tried it and he said it really helped a lot. It'll build muscle and it improves your gut, and it does wonders.
It's glutamine or L-glutamine?
L-glutamine, yeah, you'll come up with L-glutamine. It's just a tasteless powder. Bodybuilders use it, but it works wonders on gut.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Can we, speaking of which, we do have a gut expert here. Mr. Muslin, do you have anything that you could suggest?
Do I have anything I can suggest? Just, no, not really. It's just eating smart. And that's what I say. It's just eating smart. Stay off the sugars and easy on the carbs and just eat good, clean food. And when you go shopping, shop on the outside of the grocery store, not on the inside where the stuff can sit on the shelves for months
It's full of preservatives.
And yeah, I've read Michael Pollan's book. Yeah, I generally basically do that. Thanks.
Thank you, David.
Okay, guys, before I forget, I must bring attention to the fact that our wonderful founder, Mr. Rick Davis, has a birthday tomorrow. So happy birthday, Rick.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday to you.
We don't
Happy
have time.
birthday.
We don't
We
have
don't
time
have
for that.
time.
We don't have the voices either.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you,
so
everybody.
thank you, Rick, for the work you do for all of us. Let's go to Cal Van Z.
So I started Pluvicto about 2.5 weeks ago. Prior to that, I was having some pretty severe abdominal swelling, which got diagnosed by my oncologist as ascites, and that's pretty serious. And it's actually kind of confirms what the PSMA PET scan showed, which was some uptake in abdominal organs. So that's pretty scary. My PSA was at 72. The cabazitaxel just wasn't working. And I didn't think that I was going to get Pluvicto until maybe kind of into December, but they called up within a week and said they had a cancellation. So I started on the 28th. Uh, I guess my next treatment is in a couple weeks. I'll get another Lupron shot in Zometa, and then my second Pluvicto treatment will be December 23rd. The good news is that all of my abdominal swelling went away within, really started the day after Pluvicto treatment. But I've had some increased back pain, which is worrisome. I'm also losing some hair, which I don't know whether that's just kind of delayed reaction from the cabazitaxel that's, I don't know, 6 weeks out now, or whether my daughter actually found some kind of a link that said that it is a rare side effect of Pluvicto, but I haven't been able to find it. I've also lost about 14 pounds, so I'm really trying to beef up my diet, and gain some weight. Um, uh, I feel like I've lost a lot of strength while I was on chemo, and so I'm trying to build that back up. With the back pain, I'm trying to be careful. So that's it.
Can you tell us again what that diagnosis was? Did you say ascites?
Yes,
Ascites.
ascites. Yes,
Can you
sorry.
spell that? What is
ASCITES. ASCITES.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? It's a new one on me.
It's usually a result of an infection. I mean, for example, when you get, if you were an immune response. So, for example, if you get an antigen, you'll start producing antibodies, and they'll be making ascites. It's actually, and it's an inflammatory reaction.
Yeah, I was told this was possibly related to liver.
Right.
And so again, that's worrisome. Yeah, and what I didn't say was that just before the Pluvicto treatment, the radiologist wanted me to get all of that taken care of. So I think maybe a week before the Pluvicto treatment, I had 2.4 liters of fluid drained off of my abdominal cavity.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it was. They do an ultrasound and they thought there was only half a liter, but it turned out there was about 2.4. So yeah, I dropped about 4 pounds right there. So yeah,
Wow.
it's scary, but I'm hoping the Pluvicto is going to work.
So it's quite possible that draining all that fluid was what gave you the relief in the abdominal area.
Yeah, well, that was a few weeks before the Pluvicto. I still had some swelling, um, but I actually had some pretty severe scrotal swelling, and that disappeared within a few days after the Pluvicto treatment.
Rick, I want to add to what Herb said. Ascites is a sign of rough problems somewhere in the abdominal cavity. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not the. It's the outcome of obstruction or disease affecting the workings of the abdominal viscera. And you even can see it if you've seen pictures of starving kids in Africa. They might be terribly thin in their body, but their system's starting to collapse, and then the fluid builds up as a downstream product of disease. So just getting rid of the fluid is not the solution. You got to find what the underlying problem is. And probably you were right that either cabazitaxel or even the Pluvicto was killing whatever was causing the inflammation obstruction, or at least knocking it back enough to control the ascites.
Yeah, well, it was the results of the PSMA PET scan that was a precursor for being approved and getting scheduled for the Pluvicto that showed the uptake in the abdominal organs.
So you have it in abdominal lymph nodes as well? You mentioned back pain. Did you have a focal lesion in the back as well?
I've got metastases pretty much everywhere, yes.
So I hope the work Pluvicto goes well. You're looking good right now.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Good.
You said obviously you had a starting scan, so that's a great baseline, and your starting PSA was 72.
Yes.
Okay.
And I get it checked again here in a couple weeks when I go in for my next Lupron shot and Zometa treatment, Zometa infusion.
And how are your blood counts?
They all seem fine, you know.
Good.
I was really pretty winded just walking up the stairs just a few weeks ago, and I seem to be better. Um, you know, it's just kind of the back pain. What I do want to say, put a plug in for acupuncture, is that I went to an acupuncturist on Sunday, and she did some things in my ear and had left in some little uh, pressure balls, I guess, in my ear, and I think that's really helped with some of the back pain.
Right.
You know, and I'm able to treat it. You know, certainly with ibuprofen, I'm trying to not rely on ibuprofen and see whether Tylenol works. And Tylenol seems to be working. I'm sleeping, I'm eating. Um, you know, things seem to be working. I just feel weak, and I'm trying to build that back up. Be careful because of the pain I'm having. I don't want to do too much PT and wind up with more pain. The good news is I'm not taking any narcotics, you know, for my pain, so I feel pretty good about
Great.
that.
So the weight
Great.
loss, Cal, did they say that was probably from cabazitaxel?
That's a Pluvicto side effect. It's kind of down on the list, but it's listed.
Okay.
And my taste buds are coming back. You know, my appetite is coming back. I'm eating a lot. You know, and I mean the good news is I felt good enough to go fishing last week. So, you know, a 5-hour drive and you know out on a cold day on the river and you know so I'm feeling pretty good that I'm able to do that.
Yeah, but the important, you didn't give us the important news. Did you catch anything?
I caught a big old gnarly king, but my buddy, my childhood buddy, who hasn't been fishing since he was a kid, he put 3 in the boat. So 3 big kings, a big 14. I mean silvers, a big 14-pound silver buck. So that felt good for me.
Oh, you're making Ken Anderson's mouth water.
Yeah, I can tell you though that I've had end of life discussions with my kids and my mentors and counselors. Um, so, you know, things don't seem imminent, but I'm preparing.
Always a good idea, Cal.
Yeah.
Hey, Cal.
Um,
Hey, Cal, it's David
Yeah.
Muslin. Would love
Yeah.
to have you join us speaking freely one of the weeks and have you talk more about that.
Okay. Yeah.
That'd be helpful of the group.
I'll look into that. Thank you.
Thank
I've
you.
got really good counselors. My kids have been coming. You know, they all came a couple weeks ago. My daughter was here all last week from Canada, and all my kids are coming after Thanksgiving, and they're all coming after Christmas too. So I'm feeling pretty good about that.
I just wanted to say, and I absolutely agree with David. It would be fantastic if you could find time. I think we have a meeting on Thursday, actually. This week is the second meeting of the month, second Speaking Freely meeting. But I also strongly recommend BJ Miller's book, End of Life book, which I will tell you the title of right now, and I will be sure to put it in the chat window. Um, it's been sitting by my bedside for way too long. It's called A Beginner's Guide to the End, and it's a really great book. I don't know if you can see the title. Probably not. I don't
I'll
think
look it up.
A Beginner's Guide to the End. It's by B.J. Miller and Shoshana Berger. And if it's a topic that's of interest, I strongly recommend it. I'll put it in the chat window too.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, I can endorse that too. I read that book. I thought it was excellent. Okay. Rick, how much time do we have left?
We have a little less than 10 minutes.
All right. Well, we have Richard Cramen, and then we'll go to Russ Hoover. And if we have time after that, Ben Nathanson. Ben, are you okay if we don't get to you and you'll do it next week?
Yeah, scratch me for this week.
Okay, so go ahead, Richard.
Okay, I'm just reporting a status. I started out with a PSA of 2, and I've got a weird tumor, but and it's metastasized to my lungs and lymph nodes and a few other. Went through the chemo, and now I'm on lupron and of course the Elgard. I had 3 months, and yesterday got the lab tests, and PSA is undetectable, but remember I started at 2, and testosterone at also at is now 2. So that's all good. All the other chemistry came out all within the normal, with the exception of glucose at 128, which isn't that bad. When I started on the lupron and the Abby, save you the my neuropathy continued to get worse, and Dr. Allen put me on gabapentin, and the Everotion do not mix well. They were a lot of problems. I was really getting very loopy.
Okay,
So
let me just stop you a second, Richard, because I'm not clear on what you're on. You're on Eligard, and what else are you on?
I am on at 3 months. I'm on the Aberrate.
abiraterone,
Thank you.
abiraterone, Abby.
Some prednisone, and now for some of the results or the side effects, Cymbalta, and that
Okay.
seems to be happy. I'm right after Thanksgiving. I'm supposed to get the CT scan, and that's where we really keep track of what's happening with the tumors.
Okay. I thought you said something with an I. Look, something.
It's probably because I can't pronounce most of these damn names.
Okay. So right now you're getting Eligard and abiraterone and prednisone. You're getting
Yes.
Cymbalta for some of the side effects. You're getting gabapentin for the neuropathy.
No,
Is that
gabapentin really just threw me for a loop. I had all kinds of side effects from that, so I was taken off of that.
okay? But they tried you on gabapentin to help you with the neuropathy.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me give you a little tip that's worked for me and for some of the guys. It's very, very benign. You can run it past your doctor, but try taking B6 that you just buy in the drugstore, vitamin B6. And you can take quite a lot of that. If one isn't
Okay.
enough, you can take more. I can tell you personally, it's helped me. I had my neuropathy flared up again when it got cold here. I increased the B6 and it's really helped me. So think about adding B6. It can take a couple of weeks to kick in.
Yeah. It's like the Cymbalta. I mean, my primary care doctor said, don't get so damn anxious. It's going to take 6 weeks, up to 6 weeks for that to work. But it really worked relatively well soon. And Share has a physical therapy program for cancer patients. There's two therapists who only handle the cancer patients, and that has helped. My balance is now coming back somewhat, but I'm still using a cane, not so much to support, but to keep me from falling over. But it's getting better.
Okay.
When I was on gabapentin, I couldn't remember which pills I had to take, when, and I was in a fog. So, and I found out that that is not an unusual side effect of putting them together.
Yeah, a lot of people have that reaction, Richard. Richard,
Yeah.
is it okay if we try and squeeze in Russ Hoover now, or
Oh,
Well,
that's
Russ?
fine. I just wanted to report on it. The real report will be after the scans.
right. Let's
Right.
ask Russ, would you rather, we'll give you a priority next week. Would you, I don't know how long, what you have, and I don't want to rush you through it. Would you rather we take you next week?
No, because next week I won't be available. I'll be on the road. Uh,
Okay.
give me 60 seconds.
Go
I
ahead.
was I was from June 2020 to June 2022. I was on Lupron and enzalutamide, which damn near killed me. I took your guys' advice and saw Dr. E in June of this year. And as part and parcel of that discussion, at the end of the discussion, she said, "What would you like to do?" And I said, "I'd like to get off these drugs that are killing me." And her comment was, "Quit taking that shit." Right to my face. I just sat there and looked at her like, a doctor talks like this? Yes, she does, but she's good. She put me on darolutamide and Orgovyx. The next Polarify scan came back that the 30 metastases that were in my bones are gone. They don't show. My prostate has two small areas that they're not sure whether it's part of my body or maybe scar tissue. But basically, the last scan, they cannot find cancer in my body, which to me,
Fantastic,
That's
Russ.
great.
is amazing. My testosterone way back in 2020 was 357. This last round, my testosterone was 5. My PSA, which was never more than 5 10 years back, when I started into this in 2020, was 4.1. The last blood test that I did for Dr. E 2 weeks ago, my PSA number was 0.14. So the last teleconference with her, we have stopped the Orgovyx. We are going to continue with the Nubeca or the darolutamide until January. And then with that, we're going to look at blood tests, and I'm probably going to go back to Houston for some another PYLARIFY test. But she's hopeful that by that time I'm off everything. I'm done. That's my
Wonderful.
60 seconds.
Very good. It's a great positive way for us to end. Thank you, Russ. One final happy birthday to Rick, and I
Right.
guess
Birthday.
we're ready to close out.
I'm stopping the
Yeah,
recording.
yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great.
Rick, are you 42?